Good morning, I'm Amy McIntosh. I am the Secondary Learning Specialist for the Littleton Public Schools in Littleton, Colorado.
And my name is Donna Levesque, and I'm the District Instructional Technology Specialist in Littleton Public Schools. So we both work in different departments. I'm in the technology department, and she's in learning and curriculum. And we both support teachers and student learning.
Just a little bit about Littleton. We're a suburban district. We're south of Metro Denver, and we have 15,000 students, roughly 1,000 employees. Our motto, I love it, is we're big enough to serve you, small enough to know you.
So we're going to start off with a picture. Same location, 8 years apart. Not that I'm looking for an answer, but I'm wondering if we know what it's from. So this is taken from St. Peter's Square, the announcement of Pope Benedict in 2005 and Pope Francis in 2013. So I think this speaks volumes about how technology is changing our world. And I think it's visually striking how technology is changing our culture, how it's changing how we share, it's changing how we communicate. So the world has become a giant learning network.
And because of that giant learning network, our children they have different expectations from us now. They expect to be able to connect and communicate with people on the other side of the globe without a drop of a hat. They expect to be able to have information at their fingertips immediately. And that is changing how we instruct and educate our kids.
So in our little corner of the world in Littleton, Colorado, this is our plan. In the technology department in 2008, this is how we viewed literacy for the 21st century. Not tool-based, outcome-based. And so these 4 pillars, communication, information, productivity, and citizenship, are those 4 pillars that define that for us. So we're going to quickly go through that so you can see what encompasses that.
So we begin with communication, and we begin probably much too simply with smoke signals. But this is probably a form of communication that we all know best because it's a part of our growing up, and that's the rotary phone. We were tethered to it because it was how you communicated with the people in your life. It's how you made a date. It's how you called the radio station to call in and request that they play a song for you. For Donna's and my children, our personal children, and also for many of our students, this is a fictional item. They don't know what this means and what it's all about. Show me, Mom, how that thing operates.
So this used to be science fiction, but it's now technology fact. Star Trek knows what's going to happen next. The pad, P-A-D-D, is the iPad today.
And here's where we are today with our mobile devices that do connect us instantly to all parts of the globe. It gives us our instant information. We've been using it for the last 2 days to communicate and connect with each other and find information as we've been presenting.
So today, with all these communication tools, students are making their own connections. Not just writing about books they're reading, they are talking with authors about the books they're reading. So here are just 2 examples of many of where students in Littleton are speaking with authors. Daniel Pink, A Whole New Mind, Cory Doctorow, Little Brother. Or when they're researching or studying about South Korea, they're not just reading about it, they're talking with students in South Korea. Communication has made the world a much smaller place.
Information is our next pillar. And it used to be, just 15 years ago, the question that we asked as educators of our kids was, where did you find it? Because they went to the library and information was much more difficult to find. Our question today is, why do you trust it? And our librarians are essential people in helping our students to figure out whether or not a source is trustworthy and the very best piece of this is the best piece of information that they can use to support their research and their argumentative writing that they're creating for us.
publishing and productivity. So back in 1439 or thereabouts, Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press. This was an amazing invention. There was a huge power shift from the monarch and the church in charge of publishing to the private citizen. So the Renaissance, the Reformation, the American and French Revolution, this was all powered by this new technology of publishing. So today our kids obviously have a lot more publishing power than Sam Adams and Paul Revere ever did.
And what we know is that today any person could be the next greatest influence because of the capability to publish our thoughts and our ideas. Our own example in Littleton is Carl Fish from Arapahoe High School, who created the Did You Know piece on YouTube in 2006, and it went viral. And he knew how to publish his voice.
So, as Amy said, Carl knew how to publish his voice, how to make a larger audience, a much larger audience. Do our kids know how to share their voice? And so the last pillar is citizenship. So initially with the internet, we were all very nervous about kids being exposed and observing inappropriate behavior or inappropriate material. And now that's really different, or that's changing. We're not asking our kids to be observers and consumers of information. We're asking them to be participants. We're asking them to be interacting. We're asking them to participate. So in order for that to happen, teachers really need to translate that stranger danger mentality into cyberspace. They need to make sure that kids are aware of cyberbullying, of online scams. They need to know that their identity is valuable, and they need to be aware of global perspectives. So this is how the technology department defines literacy in the 21st century. Outcome-based, not tool-based.
In 2009, the state of Colorado introduced new academic standards in 10 content areas. And all 10 content areas incorporated the 21st century skills for literacy. And this is where finally our work as two departments in the same district gelled. And it became clear that we needed and had to collaborate and work together. So this reflects the Colorado academic standards and the Common Core state standards, which are both the standards that are used in Colorado.
So technology is not the icing on the cake. It is kneaded into the dough, it is woven into the fabric of how we share and how we communicate. Okay, this is what we do in classrooms and offices every day. So we knew that collaboration needed to be stronger and more connected between the technology department and learning services. And as Charles Darwin would say, in the long history of humankind, and those who've learned to collaborate and improvise most effectively have prevailed.
So as we began this journey down the road of collaborating together, we found that we were often talking about the same things, but using different verbiage and different language. For example,
our department would say technology leverages content.
And learning services would say, well, content's leveraged by technology.
And our department would say everything we do needs to be connected to content.
And we would talk about we need to integrate the technology with our content.
And we would say, we know what the desired outcome is. What are those tiptoe tasks to get there?
And we would talk about backwards planning. Start with your end in mind and plan to get there.
And we would look at the TPACK model and say, that's the content and pedagogy connection to technology.
And we would look at TPACK and talk about, so this is how technology and pedagogy connect to our content. So why TPACK and LPS? Because it meets an integral part of our mission statement that we educate all students for the future.
And it fits with our core beliefs. Just like we talked about our 21st century literacy and 21st century skills, this just works.
So we began using the TPACK model in LPS as a visual vehicle and a common language for all of our shareholder groups. We used it with administration, we used it with teachers, we've used it with students, we've used it across the board. It's part of our instructional resource selection process. Because what we found is that having that same language connects everybody together, and it connects everyone and the work that we're trying to accomplish together. So everybody has a role in this model. They're all equal parts. One is not bigger than another, and we don't debate the issue about which is more important. It all has a role, and it all is important.
We also see TPACK as a continuum. So it's not as if you have, a lesson or something that's fallen into the center of TPACK and you're done. That once you've arrived in the center, if a lesson or instruction gets you to that center of that model, that we see technology, to refer to another instructional model, SAMR, we use that to say, well, maybe you started with substitution and now we're going to do augmentation, modification, redefinition of how the outcome looks. Or maybe we're looking at content as growth. You're saying there's always deeper understanding of your content and how it connects to other disciplines. Or maybe we're looking at pedagogy and we're saying we really want to maybe increase the strategies of in your toolbox of pedagogy, of how you're connecting with kids and content. So we really see this as a growth model in all areas as well.
Our outcome is always that students are demonstrating literacy for the 21st century, so that they can be a part of this giant learning network at a greater level than they already are.
So, several of us, many of us, flew in to this wonderful symposium here at William and Mary, and we have seen this image before. But I think most people think of this image as adults needing to put the oxygen mask on so that we don't pass out before we can help our kids. But that's not what it is. This is a great visual for modeling. This kid is not going to put the oxygen mask on until you've done it, until they've seen you do it. And that's really what we need to be doing at our district, is modeling for our teachers and our staff that our departments work together. This is a natural fit. This is how it's supposed to work. And so we need to model that behavior. So this diagram just shows you some of the planning initially when we had in 2008 to plan for our inspired writing cohorts, that we have our vision statement, we have literacy initiatives and frameworks and inspired writing working together so that teachers were getting things from learning services in the morning, they were attending inspired writing things in the afternoon, and they said to us, they noticed this connection because we made it obvious. We are modeling for them that this is a connection that we're making.
So we have used with every one of our groups the TPACK model with scenarios. And it is the same scenarios across the board because it is a visual vehicle for our teachers to always be able to go back and reference to. The value of it is that in using these same scenarios, we have common experiences across groups of educators, which means that even if they didn't sit in the same room, they can go back and have the discussions in their buildings because they've all had same experiences at different times with us. They can give we've given them concrete examples that they can cite and go back to. We are getting people thinking, and what we have discovered is that conversations continue way beyond when they've spent time with us. And that there is the identification of the three elements readily and easily with the idea of technology, content, and pedagogy. And then also there's just the conversation that not all great lessons are going to fall necessarily right in that sweet spot in the center of the TPACK model, but that we've actually thought about it and made a concerted effort to make sure that we've done our best to incorporate all three aspects.
So here's an example that I won't necessarily read, but we can discuss it later. So we have this scenario, and then we give whoever's in our group, whether administrators or teachers, a little sticker. And they walk up to a poster, and they put their little sticker based on that scenario. Where does that fit? If that was my lesson, where would it fit in the model? And you'll notice in the top left corner that we have quite a bit of consensus, and that's okay. But you're going to notice in the bottom right corner, we don't. And that's great, because it gives us rich conversation. It gets us thinking, well, what were you thinking, and why did you think that? And we start to have this common language and understanding of how that model looks and feels to all of us. So once we have that conversation, we also have these follow-up questions, which is, how could this practice be moved to the center of TPACK? So maybe the content wasn't really clear, so you don't really know what outcome you were going for. Or maybe you need a different strategy to really reach all of your kids. So how could we move that instruction so that it's really attending to all three places? It's balanced. And then as Amy was alluding to earlier, should it? Does every lesson really need to hit that sweet spot? No. And we really need to honor that.
So we see all of our work as a big puzzle, and we have to have all of the pieces to have that complete picture. And that includes our district initiatives, it's our students, it's our teachers, it's our K-12 leadership. And we work very hard to make sure that all pieces have the same experiences to be able to create that complete picture.
So our K-12 leadership, we expose them, like we said, to the same experience, this TPACK scenario. So they've been exposed to concrete examples of things that they would see when they're doing walkthroughs, so they have awareness. We're not expecting that everybody that goes through these can apply and have deep understanding, but they have awareness. And really the hope is that in the future that this may be one more tool for administrators as they do walkthroughs.
Our next step is with our instructional resource selection. Each of our task force, when we come together to select instructional resources, we ground them in the TPACK model again, so that that is a central piece of our evaluation of instructional resources. We have recently completed the selection of K-12 science instructional resources. It is a first step for us as a district because they are solely online. And that's a first foray into that world. And what we recognize is that this is an important step for our students to be 21st century literate citizens. We then move with our teachers, and we model for them what we are asking them to do for our students. We've created Google Sites for each of our groups of teachers, and these sites are the opportunity and the place for our teachers to communicate with each other, to collaborate, to publish, to access information, and to ask questions of each other. When we started to dive into our new state standards, we had a year of awareness work from the state of Colorado. And I met with every group of teachers by grade level and content and gathered input from them. And one of the things that they asked for was an electronic warehouse where they could store all of their thinking and collaborate with each other. That's what these Google Sites have become. And this was something that was requested by the teachers. So we're trying to model in meeting their needs and show them how they can do the same for their students.
So we spoke initially about those 4 pillars for 21st century literacy, and that was really the impetus for our inspired writing professional development and cohorts. So inspired writing really was a focus on just writing with language arts teachers. We started very focused. And we really used TPACK as that building block, that they saw the connection of all 3 areas. We used best practices, even the basics of best practices when it came to technology, just how to manage pedagogy changes with technology. Your pedagogy changes with the technology in the classroom. How do I structure? How do I manage, right? And we're always modeling. So I'm modeling what I would expect for them to be doing and what they will hopefully be expecting their students to be doing. And then throughout the year, I'm co-teaching with them. So it's not just we have professional development and then we'll go off, but it's a co-teaching model that throughout the year, if they'd like me to teach a lesson, I'll teach high school, I teach middle school, I teach kindergarten, right? I teach them all. So that professional development really is embedded. that while the kids are learning how to do it, the teacher's watching and they're learning at the same time while they're in their classroom with their kids. And like we said, teachers are experiencing what they'll be expecting from their students. And at the end, we asked them to present at our district conference because ultimately, teachers want to hear from other teachers the value. So it doesn't matter the relationships I've built and if teachers like me or how that works out. It doesn't matter. They want to hear from the teachers I've worked with. What did you think? You're in the trenches. What is the value there? And so below here we have a timeline, and that just kind of gives you how inspired learning or inspired writing has pushed out. So first we had our plan. And you can see that plan was outcome-based. It was not, we're going to buy iPads and now we're going to figure out what to do with them, or we're going to buy netbooks. And that's what we have. We have netbooks. We're not a glamorous district, but we're a very functional district. So we have our vision, and then we started with 5th grade pilot just to get going. And then we did very strategically 5th, 6th, and 9th grade. And that was to get buy-in from every school in our district. Elementary 5th grade, middle school 6th grade, high school 9th grade. Every school had buy-in. And every school was then getting that professional development. And then moving on, so we knew that 7th and 8th and 10th, they knew what was coming down the pike. And so professional development really was requested because they knew, I'm not getting it this year, a one-to-one netbook in their classroom, but they knew they were getting it the following year. So there really was this preparedness or want to become prepared before. And then the really great thing here at the end is you'll see I have 4th, 3rd, and other subject is that the professional development has become so popular, and this integration of TPACK has become there's such ownership in the community that all of our PTOs have purchased netbooks from 4th grade, 3rd grade, and some elementary schools down to 2nd grade. Middle schools have filled in all different subjects. So they believe in what students are producing and what students are experiencing. And so this is really showing you that we're kind of getting them from both ends. We have this district focus of writing across contents. We now have inspired learning because of the demand from teachers. Inspired learning really is all contents. And so we get district PD, top down, very focused. But then we have, like we said before, throughout the year, this co-teaching model, one-on-one, small group, whatever they want is basically, we feed that. And then we also have that teacher-driven piece that Amy talked about with the Google Sites and how resources are formed. That's all teacher-driven.
So students are our final piece of our puzzle, and we know that we have done what we are supposed to be doing if our students are displaying the skills and the traits of 21st century literate citizens. And we see that reflected in the work that they produce and they give to us daily.
So really, we're making sure that all the pieces of the puzzle are in play, whether it's awareness, understanding, or application. So what have we learned? Well, I think we already knew that the TPACK model is not content specific. But for us in Littleton to get started, it was content specific. We started with writing, and we started with language arts teachers. And I think because we were so focused and the outcomes were very clear, that we had a lot of success, and that's what turned into inspired learning, which really addresses all contents.
We've also learned that you need to know what your desired outcomes are, and they have to be common outcomes. It cannot be that learning services has one set of outcomes and instructional technology has a different. We've got to be collaborative and have the same outcome if we want it to work for the system.
There's also different perspectives. So whether it's the perspective of Amy and I and sharing out information with our teachers, or an administrator using TPACK as an awareness tool with a walkthrough, or whether it's a teacher that's using it to apply the TPACK model to their lesson, we all have different perspectives on it.
Technology leverages content, and we've got to, that is a given in our world today. So it is TPACK leverages the work for all of us.
And I think what I've learned, well, for multiple years now, I always thought it would switch, but whether I go to state conferences or national conferences, I am surprised of the lack of awareness of the TPACK model. And I guess I'm surprised more because I wonder how are districts connecting these three pieces, because the TPACK model just gives such a great visual and creates such a common language that I wonder if some of the struggle is not having a tool like this.
We've learned the value of having this as a visual vehicle to create our common language and our common understanding across the district. It is an expected piece that everybody just knows and understands. We also have learned that we have to have all facets of the organization on board, whether it be just at the awareness level or as deep as the application piece. Everybody has to at least have awareness of it for it to be effective and useful.
And teamwork. Like we said earlier, it's so important that we're working together, that we're modeling this behavior, that technology, instructional technology and learning services is a natural fit. And we need to model that. And like Kermit says, it's not always easy. But we value the work, we value our colleagues, and we move forward. So this is our plan in Littleton, Colorado, to have active, responsible participants in our World Learning Network. What does your plan look like?
We know that our plan would not work without all of our teammates in LPS. It's not just Donna and me, and we are so thankful for the support and the effort that it takes from all of us to make this happen and the difference that it's making for our kids.